Hello everyone, my name is Olivia, and today I wanted to recommend you some movies and TV shows to watch during the autumnal season. This is my favorite time of the year. I love autumn so much. I love everything about it, from the aesthetic to the movies to the overall vibe, and I have a lot of movies and some shows to recommend to you to watch during this season, the best time of the year. But before we get into it, I want to mention this video sponsor, which is Redbubble. Redbubble is one of my favorite places to go to find unique items that I can get that relate to my interests. They are a website that has thousands upon thousands of designs created by independent artists that you could put on t-shirts, mugs, socks, pillows. And to celebrate the autumnal season, I wanted to show you some things that I have gotten from Redbubble to celebrate this time of year, to revamp my room, and to really bring in autumn the right way. One thing that I got from Redbubble is this mouse pad. I have another mouse pad from Redbubble that I absolutely love, so I just love being able to switch them out to match the season. And it's not a Redbubble haul if I don't get myself a t-shirt, and because I wanted to get more horror themed t-shirts like the one I'm currently wearing, I wanted to get one that said Scream Queen. It really matches the Halloween theme that I am going for, and I cannot wait to mix and match this with mom jeans and skirts. It is going to be a t-shirt that I'm going to wear to death. I also got some autumnal and Halloween themed socks. Now let's move on to some of the postcards that I got from Redbubble. I have one that is cat themed with some pumpkins and pumpkin spice, and a spooky girl sticker that I cannot wait to put on my journal. And then I saw some really cute autumnal frog stickers. So I have this really cute frog sticker that I just had to get, and I also got one for my best friend to give to her as well. And speaking of my best friend, she just recently got a kitten named Sushi who has become the light of my life. So I got her a cat mat featuring a cat that looks just like her, and it's also really cute because my best friend's favorite color is yellow. So not only does this match her cat, but it matches her aesthetic as well. Another gift that I got for someone else to celebrate the autumnal season is a blanket for my brother. It features aliens, and he saw this design and fell immediately in love with it, and we were thinking if we should put it onto a print to put on his wall, but then he saw that they had a blanket option and he is in love with it. And the last two things that I got from Redbubble is a coffee mug featuring a house, kettles, and a notebook and tea. And I also got a pillow with a new design to match my green aesthetic. I forgot to mention that I also got a phone case from Redbubble. If you want to see everything that I got from Redbubble, be sure to click the link in my bio and use my coupon code, which will be featured right here, to get a discount off your order. Thank you so much to Redbubble for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into the spooky movie and TV show recommendations. So we're going to start off with movies that have an autumnal cozy vibe, and then as the list goes on, the movies are going to get progressively scarier. So the first movie that I have to recommend is Fantastic Mr. Fox, and this is my first ever Wes Anderson movie, and I fell head over heels for his direction, his art style, and the way that he structures his stories overall. Fantastic Mr. Fox follows Mr. Fox, who decides to go after the three corporations that live by his tree, and he sabotages each of these companies, but once these leaders of these corporations catch on, they decide to go after Mr. Fox himself, which not only affects him, but his entire community in general. Fantastic Mr. Fox is the perfect movie to get into the autumnal spirit because it just has those autumn vibes. The hues are orange, yellows, and reds, and the overall tone of the story is playful and vibrant, and puts you into the autumnal spirit because it deals with apple cider, it deals with nature, it deals with cute little animals just getting into hijinks. Cannot recommend it enough. It was such a playful, fun, lighthearted movie that really caught my attention from the beginning to the end, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And it also features a really powerhouse cast. We have George Clooney and Meryl Streep as the lead. We have Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, and Owen Wilson in this cast, and it's just such a wonderful movie that puts you into the autumnal vibe and is the perfect movie to transition into autumn. The next movie that I have to recommend is Little Women. Little Women is the perfect movie to get into the cozy vibe because it just feels so warm and inviting. Little Women is a historical coming-of-age film that follows four different sisters as they are coming into their personalities, getting married, and moving on with their life after having such a close-knit childhood together. Little Women is the perfect movie to get cozy and and warm and to just cry your heart out because not only is it so heartfelt and bittersweet, but it's also incredibly moving. And the way that it explores sisterhood, family, love, marriage, and growing into adulthood is absolutely fantastic. And it's just the perfect movie to cozy up, watch with your friends, or to watch with yourself. And it is just moving, beautifully shot with beautiful wardrobes and beautiful hair as well. And it is the perfect movie to get into the autumnal spirit. A fun, lighthearted mystery that I have to recommend that is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 4 of Letterboxd, is Clue. And it follows a group of characters who come together for dinner. They do not know each other, but once they are finally at the mansion that they are invited to, someone dies and they have to figure out who did the murder. Clue is one of my favorite comedies because I can watch it over and over again and still laugh at the jokes. It has a very dry humor that has one-liners that always make me laugh out loud, with a ridiculous cast of characters that each have such distinct personalities that clash with each other, mesh well with each other, and just create overall chaos. If you have not seen Clue before, I highly recommend it. It is a cult classic. The people who love Clue absolutely love Clue, and the people who don't know about Clue are clearly missing out on a wonderful Halloween movie that matches the overall tone because it is very spooky and gloomy, but on the inside of this mansion, it is just a hilarious, fun-filled time. And it's also really fun because it has 3 different endings, because when they originally released the movie into theaters, each movie theater had a random ending, which encouraged viewers to see the movie multiple times to see if they could get a different ending. And they did this to reflect the fact that when you play Clue, the board game, the ending is always different. So I thought that was a really fun aspect that they included into the story. Cannot recommend it enough. It is just such a fun movie. The next movie that I have to recommend is one of my favorite movies of all time, just like Clue, and it is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Tim Burton. This is a claymation Halloween movie following our main character Jack Skellington, who is the Pumpkin King of Halloween Town. One day he travels into the forest and discovers the entrance to Christmas Town, so he returns back to Halloween Town and tells the people in his town that they have to create their own version of Christmas. But the thing is, all these people who live in Halloween Town are monsters, vampires, ghosts, and the only way that they know how to celebrate a holiday is through very spooky means. I watched this from October to December because it not only has Halloween vibes but also Christmas vibes, and it is just the perfect claymation movie to watch. It's definitely on the creepier side compared to all the movies that I previously mentioned, and it's just so beautifully filmed and so impressive because it took them such a long time to just do 1 minute of the movie. I think it took them around 2 weeks to do 1 minute of the movie. So not only is Nightmare Before Christmas a beautifully filmed movie, but also an impressively filmed movie because I know it took them ages upon ages to make it all come together, and I think that is incredibly impressive. Another fun autumnal movie that I have to recommend is The Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion is inspired by the Haunted Mansion ride in Walt Disney World. So we follow our main characters, Jim and Sarah, who are married and they have 2 children, and one day they are called to go to a mansion because the owner wants to sell it, and these 2 characters are real estate agents. So they show up to the mansion and immediately a rainstorm hits and they are stranded at the mansion, and the butler takes them in and they are introduced to the world of this haunted mansion full of ghosts, creepy crawlies, and so much more. And it is an utterly ridiculous, very camp type of movie. I feel like if you have not seen it as a child, you just won't get the nostalgia for it because I watched it recently, I think a couple of autumns ago, and it's definitely an acquired taste, and I feel like you have to have seen it as a kid to appreciate the overall tone of the story because it is outlandish, it is hilarious, it is very, very, very odd in a way. But I think if you love the Haunted Mansion ride, if you love the movie Halloween Town and that type of Disney Channel vibe, then you are going to love the Haunted Mansion because it just has that ridiculous energy to it. It's definitely not the best Halloween autumny movie to watch, but I wanted to include it anyway. The next movie that I want to recommend, I actually recently saw, and it is called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Set in an expansive mansion on the night that a hurricane is set to hit, a group of 20-something-year-olds who are incredibly rich, incredibly privileged, decide to party all night and play a game called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Kind of like a manhunt game where they are all hiding from one another, and the person who is the killer is trying to tag the others to kill them, and once the others find a body, they yell bodies, 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 and they try and figure out who the killer is. But when they are playing this game, they realize that someone is actually trying to kill all of them one by one, and this fun-filled night actually turns into a murder mystery. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is essentially Clue and Then There Were None, but for Gen Z. It is a fun-filled, hilarious, and not to be taken seriously horror movie. It is exactly what I needed out of a fun horror movie, and it is just very Clue-esque, but in a modern way. The next movie that I have to recommend that is also incredibly fun is Fresh. Fresh is a horror movie focusing on the horrors of modern dating, and we follow our main character Noah, who is tired of online dating and the horrors that come along with it. So she decides to follow along with a meet cute that she has in a grocery store and begins dating a man named Steve. They grow closer to one another immediately, and Steve decides to invite her on a weekend getaway, and once that weekend getaway occurs, it quickly becomes sour and things take a turn for the worst. Fresh is a movie that I want people to dive in without knowing anything. I don't want you to look at the trailer, I don't want you to hear your friends' opinions, I just want you to go into Fresh with an open mind, with the understanding that this movie is not to be taken seriously. It takes a lot of twists and turns and is a dark comedy horror movie that is the perfect movie, like Bodies, 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 to watch with friends. If you love horror movies that like to have a little bit of fun, then you will love Fresh. Cannot recommend it enough. I thought it was a great time. I always think about it. Not only is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and Fresh directed by a woman, but the next movie that I have to recommend is also directed by a woman. And it is American Psycho. American Psycho follows our main character, Patrick Bateman, who is an investment bank executive who hides his alter ego from his co-workers, but slowly but surely his alter ego takes over his entire life. American Psycho is not only a fun horror slasher movie, but is also a movie that you can dissect in so many different ways, like a man's obsession with individuality through means of conformity and the horrors of working on Wall Street and being obsessed with capitalism. American Psycho is a movie that I've only seen a couple of times, and it has just become ingrained in my mind in the way that Patrick Bateman reacts to the world around him and the way that he reacts to corporate life in general. The way that he reacts to different situations is so fascinating and comedic in a way, and I think this is definitely one of Christian Bale's best roles because the way that he embodies Patrick Bateman is horrifying because it is so stoic and is so unreadable in a way, and I love the fact that he said that he based this character off of Tom Cruise in interviews, because the way that Tom Cruise speaks in interviews is so alien in the way that he has no actual emotion in his eyes, yet he's playing a character for an audience, and that's exactly what Patrick Bateman is in this movie. He's playing a role for other people, but once you see him break his character and show who he really is, that's when it gets truly horrifying. It's definitely one of the horror movies that you can sit and think about for a long time and come up with new theories and new concepts to dissect, and it's also a horror movie that I highly recommend because it is so wild. It is a movie that feels somewhat A24-esque in the way that it starts out very bland and boring and builds up to this crescendo of absolute chaos and horror. Definitely a movie that makes you look at corporate life in a different way. Cannot recommend it enough. The next movie that I have to recommend is also one of my favorite movies of all time, and it is Shutter Island. Shutter Island follows our main character, Teddy Daniels, during the 1950s. He is a U.S. Marshal who is sent to Ashcliff, which is a remote island off the coast of Boston, which houses a mental institution where one patient has mysteriously disappeared through the walls. So we follow Teddy Daniels as he is investigating this disappearance, and he is realizing that Ashcliff and Shutter Island itself has a lot more lurking beneath the surface than he originally thought. Shutter Island is the perfect conversation starter because there are so many different ways that you can look at this story. It's definitely a story that will blow your mind and leave you wondering what is the truth. I love Shutter Island because I love a movie that can make me think. I love a movie that makes me wonder if what the characters are telling me is real, and it's especially fun because Teddy Daniels is an unreliable narrator. We see him slowly lose his sanity while he is on Shutter Island, and it makes you wonder what is real, what is fake, what's an illusion, what's a lie being told to him. It is so gloomy, it's so dark. The overall atmosphere of Shutter Island fits the autumnal tone, and it is also a psychological thriller that will make you wonder what is real and make you go onto Reddit right after you finish the movie to find out what the ending really means. The last movie that I have to recommend is by Jordan Peele, and it is the movie Us. Us is also one of my favorite movies of all time. Can you guess that horror is one of my favorite genres for film? Us follows a family who goes on a vacation to their beach house to unplug and forget about their life when one night a group of visitors show up at their driveway and change their lives forever. It's best to go into Us without knowing anything about it. Don't watch the trailer, don't listen to your friends' opinions. Just go into this movie and enjoy the ride because it's going to be one of the most mind-blowing and mind-boggling movies that you can ever see. There are so many layers into this movie that you can dissect and look at and theorize about, and I love Us so much because of that. Not only is the story complex and mind-blowing, but also the performances are out of this world. Lupita Nyong'o just really embodies the role of the main character, and the way that she performs in this movie is unlike anything I've ever seen in a horror movie. This is definitely a movie that's going to become a classic in the genre. I love this movie so much. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to give anything away, but Us is a fantastic movie that is definitely worth your time and the perfect movie to watch in October. Now that we've gone through all those movies, let's talk about the 3 shows that I think are perfect for autumn time. So the first show that I have to recommend is Over the Garden Wall. Over the Garden Wall is an animated show that is only 10 episodes long, and each episode is about 15 minutes or 10 minutes, and it is one of the most beautiful animated shows that I have ever seen. And the story itself is whimsical yet slightly disturbing. It's a show that you have to go in with an open mind and just go along with the journey, because at the beginning of the show you're not going to know too much about what is happening and why these characters are over the garden wall, but once you journey along with each episode and you watch this story unfold, you're going to appreciate all the hidden Easter eggs in this show and the way that it is so beautifully sewn together to create this story that is whimsical and dark and beautiful and just so entertaining. A horror show that I have to recommend and always talk about is The Haunting of Hill House. The Haunting of Hill House, like Over the Garden Wall, is only 1 season long, so once you begin it and end it, the story is over, and it follows a family who previously lived at Hill House. We follow 2 different timelines, while the family lived at Hill House and the aftermath of them living at Hill House. We follow the main characters who were previously children, now as adults, as they are dealing with this overwhelming grief that is hanging over them and how they are dealing with it in very different ways. So not only is The Haunting of Hill House a classic horror show that I think everyone should watch, but it's also an exploration of collective grief and how people grieve in different ways. Hill House is just the perfect horror show to watch during this season. It wraps up so beautifully without being rushed, and the way that things are revealed and the way that it comes full circle is so well done, and I just love Mike Flanagan's work, and I cannot recommend this show enough. I definitely want more people to see it, and I can watch it over and over again and never get tired of it. The last show that I have to recommend is one of my favorite shows of all time, and it is Hannibal. If you're a fan of gory horror movies, then you will love the show Hannibal. Hannibal is the show that made me desensitized to horror itself. After seeing this show, nothing can scare me in horror movies, because this show has really immersed me into the world of horror and has changed me forever, and I am obsessed with it. If you do not know what Hannibal is about, it follows our main character, Will Graham, who is an FBI consultant who has this special ability to recreate crime scenes in his mind to figure out who is the killer. And he is continually going to these crime scenes and begins to realize that it's the same person committing all these crimes. But while he is looking at all these crime scenes, he is slowly deteriorating and his mental health is going into the gutters because these crime scenes are incredibly gory, incredibly triggering to look at, and eventually he is told to go to a psychiatrist named Hannibal Lecter. So the show Hannibal itself is kind of like a crime mystery show mixed with a horror show. It is one of the most beautifully shot shows that I have ever seen, and the gore itself is to be admired because the special effects and the use of practical makeup is fascinating to watch, and it is just an impressive show, not only in the way that it is shot and the way that it has like a consistent gloom to it, but also in its dialogue and its use of psychology and its exploration of a toxic relationship that becomes all-consuming. Hannibal is definitely the show that got me into horror movies and horror shows in general, and I cannot thank it enough. It definitely introduced me to the genre of storytelling that I think is incredibly fascinating and also exciting because it leaves you on the edge of your seat wondering what is going to happen next. Let me know if you have seen any of these movies, any of these shows. Let me know which ones are your favorite, and I also want you to recommend some shows and movies to watch during this time of year to get into the autumnal spirit. It doesn't necessarily have to be scary movies. It can be movies like Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I am just so excited to get into the autumnal spirit, to rewatch some of these movies, to watch new horror movies and new movies that will get me into the autumn vibe. Thank you so much to Redbubble for sponsoring this video. If you want to check out any of the designs that I have gotten from them recently, be sure to click the link in my bio and use my coupon code, which will be featured right here, to get a discount off your next order from them. If you have not followed me anywhere else on social media, be sure to do so. I will not only link my letterbox down below, but previous movie and TV show videos that I have done before for you to watch as well to get more recommendations. Thank you so much for sticking around for this long video. If you have made it this far in the video, leave a pumpkin emoji to see who stays for the longest in all my videos. If you do, I greatly appreciate you, and I am so happy that you're here, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!